Hey everybody, we're going to get started in about 10 minutes. See you soon.
A woman once asked me, why do I sing for a queen? I said, all the queen have done, all of her hard labor. I said I wasn't there for inauguration. I wasn't there for celebration. But I'm around when a birthday comes. So happy birthday, happy birthday. I say in my mind I got the design, in my mind I got the design. Thought about it, 6 space shuttles, the size of the Hindenburg and the Titanic, both put together, expandable, transformable, and so adaptable. And just for the show of it, for the nose of it, 6 space shuttles and 144,000 elephants. Divide them by 6. And every 60 hours, let one leave the earth from here, and another one leave the earth from there, and another one leave the earth from over yonder, and another leave the earth from down yonder, and another one leave the earth from up yonder. By the time all 6 get off in the universe for the exploration of the planet Earth, when queens get together, be flying around above the ground. And when they come back down, 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 they can work around, they can talk around, they can meet around. They can heal the ground, they can heal the air, and fix the water too. That's what my 6 space shuttle. That's what my 6 space shuttle. That's what my 6 space shuttles will do. And just for the show of it, and just for the know of it, that all humans may know, that all humans may know, when king could come together and do these things for queen. Happy birthday, dear queen. Happy birthday, dear queen. Happy birthday.
Hello, welcome to the Segue reading series at Artist Space. Thanks for braving the chilling temps to be here tonight. If you're watching from the comfort of your own home, please remember to contribute $5 admission via Venmo or PayPal, which is given directly and in full to the readers. The details will return to your screen during intermission. My name is Lonely Christopher, and I'm hosting this season with James Sherry for Roof Books. Tonight I'm in heaven because we're featuring two of my favorite poets. Uche Nduka is a longtime friend, and we have worked together on 3 of his poetry collections, most recently Bainbridge Island Notebook, out now from Roof. One might consider this a book launch event, therefore we're selling copies for half off the cover price out there. Joining Uche is the dazzling Bahaar Ehsan, to whom I will now introduce you, although I'm sure many here are already familiar. Bahaar Ehsan is among the most impressive and adored writers to emerge during the Gulp pandemic-era experimental poetry scene. I first met her in San Francisco and was magnetized to her socially, and then when I discovered the quality of her writing, I melted. Ehsan's sold-out chapbook, Gay Girl Hyacinth, was published by Eyelet Press in 2021, described as, quote, an intimate report on self-construction via the ritual transgression of boundaries, unquote. It's a playful confrontation of essentialism in all its guises via recasting transgender subjectivity through the shape of Greek myth, namely that of the god Apollo and his human lover Hyacinth. The deity is super in love with this hot young boy, tale as old as time, but accidentally kills the mortal while they are playing together. Hyacinth is doomed to his fate, a death through which the immortal Apollo cannot follow him. The best he can do is memorialize his manslaughtered slut as a flower, bloomed from his blood, marked with sorrow. The origin story of the hyacinth, I guess. As an aside, that memorialization seems a little half-hearted considering what Emperor Hadrian did after his sex twink Antinous fell into the Nile. But would you rather your posthumous regeneration be the form of a stone god or a fragile flower? Both have their cults and their pluses and minuses. I'm not sure you can queer a myth that is already blatantly homosexual, but Ehsan can be said to trans the narrative by casting herself as the gay girl version of this comely Prince Hyacinth. So who is her Apollo, that which is obsessed by her being but ultimately deadly, the lover who loved too hard, the force through which she will transform or be reborn? Does Apollo, the god of truth and healing, represent some aspect of trans experience itself? Is he a mere horny chaser, or is it something more abstract? Perhaps in immortal Apollo is the desire for cohesion, restoration, or the search for the originary. But there's a tension in that, because the poet also admits, quote, I am quite fond of the void, unquote, and speaks of becoming undetermined as a form of clarity. She also touches upon ideas of sacral embodied ritualization, human form as history, and mythologizing gender. Quote, it is simply not enough to transform my relationship to language and nothing else. At some point, the hips must be involved, unquote. Ehsan's use of ancient mythology is evident in another series of poems, her Orphic Measures, which, inspired by the Orphic hymns, Orphism considered to be a reformation of depraved Dionysianism, indirectly reference the well-worn story of Orpheus and Eurydice, which also centers around a gifted lover who tragically kills the object of his affection. Reading through these measures, I kept in mind themes of recovering, rising, failing, looking, and loss, and whether these forces may be cyclical, as the poet acknowledges that which is transfigured by repetition. She invokes anticathesis and revels in a complex mixture of reference and meaning, yet never forgetting or returning to, quote, the meat of it all, unquote. She metaphorizes the body as a threshold through which oppositional powers collide and sometimes merge, absorption versus blockage, drainage versus shielding, edge versus center, disjuncture versus mediation. An undercurrent theme of medicalization is depathologized through contact with the mystic. I catch threads of a poet braving the medical industrial complex while enduring conditions of economic oppression, quote, out of the clinic and into the dirt, unquote. Throughout the work slithers the potential for descents and rupture, and it's unclear whether this is an undesirable disturbance, the inside bursting forth, or a celebratory form of blooming, or both. That edgy irresolution electrifies the verse that is already compositionally and thematically depthful and stunning. In any case, as the poet contends with definition, she affirms, quote, "We ought to make music in spite of the sentence," unquote. Bahaar sent me some new work, which I think she might share from tonight. Apogee Journal situates the poet as strongly anti-imperialist, and regarding her conception of the palimpsestic pussy, writes that, quote, "We need new words for our bodies to insist on the right for them to take space. We need a palimpsest where the old words are overwritten, evolved," unquote. While Ahsan's sparkling and incendiary metaphors arrive from her specific lived experience, everything gestures toward a universal struggle between holism and reductionism, love and chaos. But she scribbles over the old narratives, creating generative confusion, doc on doc action. She leans further into linguistic abstraction, perhaps evincing the desire, quote, "not to be destroyed by one's own substance," unquote. But the focus on duration and measurement persists, based as it is on a sense of lineages, their potencies and disruptions. Bahaar is seeking a space on the page for her ideas to breathe before they can become, quote, "limited in recognition," unquote. She shines a light on, quote, "the spot that recourse falls short," unquote, and posits different modes of approaching ontological problems. It's a joy to hear and a worthwhile challenge to parse. Roof Books is really excited to be collaborating with Bahaar Ehsan on her debut full-length poetry collection sometime in an upcoming season. Please welcome to the podium somebody to love, if you don't already, Bahaar Ehsan.
Attend the missing referent. The new way to spell ethics is MODAL. How does one trill? Illuminate very well, very flatten. Pendulous prompting, prompted titration, titration prompt begets, even titration of vision. The new way to spell leaf is TWIST. How does one enunciate? Sustain, flattened, crisp, framed deceit. Padding forms circles, sugar pierced, disclosure, no prompting, never touching. The new way to spell condom is SYMBOLIC. How does one arpeggiate? Crumble feature, contact loss timbre. Undone so actional, coordinates not withheld, vehicular imperative, uncongeal musically. The new way to spell style is INSTRUMENTAL. How does one ascend? Immersion, submersion, pickled submersion sustains. Incensed privacy upturned, line through held up, upturned cradled in service, blue sphere foregone. The new way to spell fictive is PRIVATE. How does one make clear? Grain metaphor not holding, cocked disjuncture, never dwindle, sever, mirror, munch unwanted, reflexive munch. The new way to spell regard is INEVITABLE. How does one endear? Make provisions, expected decay, hypersyntax my strife, overwrought song, three-dimensioned line, appropriate to uncongeal. The new way to spell touch is RESONANT. How does one vibrate? It's nice to be here. Thank you, Lonely and James, for having me, and thank you, Lonely. I liked that, beginning with the mythic and then ending with this thing about duration or something. I was reading these Duncan essays today. Anyway, the mythic, he's kind of on that tip. Yeah, I'll keep going. This next sort of sequence of things begins with two epigraphs from Lynn Haginian and Norma Cole, respectively. Lynn says, metonymy moves restlessly through an associative network in which associations are compressed rather than elaborated. Metonymy is intervallic, incremental. It exists within a measure. A metonym is the condensation of its context. And then Norma, is it a chair or a piece of roast beef? Night never seems nothing. Lyric stringency licked my ear. I demanded remediation, not to be destroyed by one's own substance. Huge dogs, giant cats, little dicks, and hurricane dicks. No accompanying experience, one coordinate sound. Not accurate to me moon, mead moon, middle music, the only possible expression. Aspirated anchovy offered like amulet, then we look each other in the eyes, look at each bond, duration down to the hem of it. Fugal visitation, spiritually ensconced, as if further from me. Have you ever even tried to adhere to a different set of stories? I have. The squirming move downwards, heart's content. The fixedness of the ears suggests convention rigor. Prizing oneself, a goddamn canvas, so stands recourse to recourse. Ambient chatter, so there is no measure. There is indecision, stanzaic discombobulation, indecision hardened by the line. High modernism, the stuff of fantasy, I fear. All registers are one register, beget one another, move in a line, 3 lines. You've got no permission, or else there's too much of the stuff. Heart's content, nothing to adhere to. That is my substance, not destroyed by it. Recursive corridor, the weirdest affect on Heart Street. Separate, separated, and storied. Mended duration, fugal extension, conked the fuck out. Greenzinger put forth full-bodied stalwart, speaking from my psychotic core, the most endearing thing. 2 channels wherein the conjuring runs at a slight delay. Less so the sense of a zinger. One mechanism to put forth, to retract. Seed shards and other shards, shards of doing, but at which level of organization? Stanzaic procedure gives way to erotic circuit, concordance sprang from her heart sense. Stalwart notion, redoubling consternation. It was once experienced as a shift, now just grafting one thing onto purple. Rarefied distension, subsuming something into the frame. That's my kind of contrition, baby. Reared madrigal, danced bifocal, metastanzaic sustenance. Will you bring it to the fore? Will you bring it to the fore? Speaking of my psychotic core, the most rewarding thing. Of course, I have self-efficacy. Spice of life is so an embrace. Those sync forms sunk, being there totally, to shed it rebroken. Its clunky hiss, I know, revealed to be ecstatic. What is unmoved by its own center is disrepair, I think. In distress, feed him cakes of rosin, make calls. Noise moves through the length of cakes and halls. It becomes limited there, doesn't it? Or it doesn't. It becomes limited in recognition. It's untouchable lyricism, even with soil on head fastidious. Boo-hoo that it's limited. Welcome to the participant house. Those forms not offered are primary forms. You get rounded too. Ingraining has a direction, froth and forth, warbling length and girth fixation, falsely obliterated by being wholly with. Don't worry your milky head, honey, about such things. Mired mirror, stringent junction, bust in on the nape. Conjuncture in the truncture, baby, that's cool. That's procedural, it doesn't incantatory, so. Raw impression of the spice, envious of that kind of displacement, the shell of a shape. Speech his me moon up mine, feeble pebble bread, pole star barred, you've the most protracted turn. The way it's caked on, myth undergirds, homology-resistant constructions, grasses, metonymy bird seed at the start and the end of it, his me moon to which I'm beholden. Resignation is not for fronds, the studded spire Violet loves, a ring worn on the box, shiny static return. Comfort isn't perfectly reproducible, not symmetrically rung. The Fordist ring intemperance for bisection mooch. Polestar threads generously anterior, the spot where that recourse falls short. When splaying, experience is a preface to redemption spire. Solicit me in its grumbling clitoral jurisprudence. Bergamot corrective in most, you see, splaying is plainer and reveals material not exist. Having seen so much of myself, bleeding and tiled, feelings incursion into pamphleteering oxblood plain. Easy to be kind, fragrant to be taught, with sentiment in the smack mist, the vulgar intemperance of canned salmon encroaching, re-rewarded, gaff-rigged, bound, spread. The slough of any mountain, its horniest vector. Vector action can only be described, spread. You can gut things and produce a variety of effects. Outside of myself tiled, Violet cleans it up braided. Funky shavings are her reward. Plasticity marked slough, that's the point of entry and its cost. Excess is the only vehicle for lapse. I'm in there, upon that, blustering, waiting game. Plainer changes, formal delicacy gets me off. Distortion laid bare. Plasticity that's displaced by its own depth of feeling, wrangle-boned. It's a reward form and gesturally lambasted, pleased with only milk-seed retort, so embattled, salt of the earth one's want. The vixen by which I'm allowed to reproach. Blue jean leaf, determined by biggest basin, widest plinth, it's been quartered for my delight, with vexing triplicate condition, this time in actual song commitment. Ask the firm for my love, canny and ripped from exoskeletal jump, desperation extended vernal, sentiment run through sink form resplends, a field port whole, movement in any direction is a thrum. I guess I'll read from these Orphic measures. Yeah, let me do that. It can only be unbound to the extent that it is measured. It is a dizzying transferential constellation. Avatars in my dream and avatars in the park, avatars of me and of what I am not sure. The domain of experience crumbles under the weight of Philip Whalen's Dharma inheritance. I've lost sight of the so-called drive, overcome and governed by the enlivening present, the swagger that appears with a kiss on the forehead. Blockage is an asset in a system of injuring inconsistencies. Competing desires competing, to somatize but also to transmute. The cessation of play, the cessation of thought, the concentric is. Reduced capacity for, induced by rot, the scaffold activated at every point of contact. To rush, to relish, my surrender to mist, less noble than adaptive. A pair of sizable low-hanging balls becomes a problem only when another's subjectivity is underdeveloped. The form of the thing conceals the root of the thing, beholding an egret with a near clinical rigor, bathing in thickened repetition, by which I am transfigured. Squishy transference, the meat of it all. Amy tells me that the intervention was to place her in the symbolic. That's why they got her a library card. Red tulip saturated with connotation cannot function as a drain. An image composed of several elements should be understood as such. Anticathexis. Sand is a variable. Sand is always a variable. A variable is not a compulsion, but neither is it experience. Only experience is experience, and only a library card grants one entry into the scaffold. I incant and I observe, I build a drain for the soulless part of the psyche. To lose sight of the libidinal in this case might serve us well. I devised a game. Lower the threshold until reciprocity becomes moot. The mechanics of such a thing were beyond me. Slurp it up until it's taut, then lop it off intracommunally. Grazing for something capacious, her sights were set. Individually, each clinician was surprised by the crispness of her affect. Collectively, it was precisely what they had expected. Her state of being opens itself to me and I to it, the bidirectional song and dance, slurping up the silly swarm, brackets impede eroticism. A poet and a nurse practitioner walk into a bar. What for others is sublimated, for me is not. Which is more deeply fucked, meeting urgency with urgency or meeting urgency with stoicism? Stoicism can be erotic, but so can a boot to the groin. Repetition thickens into churning. Constantly speaking about it in terms of geography, things at the center are placeless and floaty. One element is the girl, another is the tulip. Ekphrastic seeds don't birth, but they gestate. Endearment induced by the presence of geese. We ought to make music in spite of the sentence. The temporary merging of psychic lives this way becomes possible. None of you will ever know what I learned from Bob Perlman, and neither will I. I should say that I really am fond of Bob Perlman. I don't want that to read as a dig or something. He's a roof author, and that's true. We stumble over each other because we lack curiosity, and the knot remains a knot because we lack curiosity. Gestation is endless until freed by repetition. Silly people will always be preoccupied by ambivalence. The bad element and the good element, the external element and the internal one. The pleasure of the back and forth isn't novel, but it hasn't yet been harvested, not in this relation at least. The goslings were birthed and raised next to Stowe Lake. Noah comes over for dinner, and a vase of chrysanthemums, a vase of buttercups becomes the mediating variable. Reframed in terms of geography, you wouldn't want to live in a spa. You block the thing, you simply block it. You put your body in its path and do what needs to be done. You absorb what you're meant to absorb, and it jiggles where it's supposed to. But the function is remarkably simple. It's simply about blockage. Producing distance between self and system is a relational habit. It is also helpful. If undiscerning, you become beholden to a quince branch, spryly scurrying towards equanimity. The knot remains intact until curiosity pushes through, producing a dehiscence. If a blockage is produced by the heightening of a threshold, it becomes less clear whether it is an asset. Her characterization of the interaction seemed cruel, so I chose to absorb it. Out of the clinic and into the dirt, you don't have to insert anything for enjoyment to be there. The buttercups are both variable and avariable. She wasn't deficient in her integration, but everything always had to be mediated. Regarding the swiftness of her retraction, equanimity never achieved. Drain the interaction of its mediating factors, and you're left with a bunch of tasks. The patient and provider become obstacles to each other. Continuity isn't important for everybody, but certainly for some. A flock of silkworms sets the scene, but isn't the setting. Isn't it delightful? Your subjective presence and my subjective presence. The setting is characterized by harm. I'm the expeller and the expulsion, and still all I can do is gaze at the stenotic tissue and sigh. The quince branch is singular, though it appears over and over and with such enormity. Mimicry masks a much deeper disjuncture, degradation brow furrow, furrowed brow opening. The figure by whom it is all revealed can only be seen under candlelight. It's already relational, no need to avoid mediation. Organize an entire life around observance. Hark, hark, I observed. Now what? Plenty to do and plenty of time. Hark, hark. She has to be observed for the reason of because her rhythm has accelerated. Durational admittance, prohibitive remittance, and then the spectacular crumble. If hyperbole gets people what they need, then all will move through hyperbole. I'll see to it. But Amy would rather I punish and extinguish, not degrading, just perennial. That's tough, man. The not even knowing. Parataxis, parataxis, and more. Parataxis, I'm exhausted. This way will never produce a dehiscence, not even one. Dehiscence kowtows at the coiling semantic threshold. Her timbre touches me but can't quite reach into the fold where the fluid is accumulating, decompensating at an excruciating rhythm, but we can't identify the source, neither in the fold nor in the scaffold. Once attested, credentials are entered, we all have a party. A clown arrives to unknot the deeper disjunctures. Amy and I are both perennialists, but I'm the one who loves forensic. Purple swing reveals something. Listen to the plan and squeal. Hallucinatory rhythm of my stroll, accumulation of structure. Structure here is candlelight. Timbre slides through the fold, takes some fluid with it. You are sitting at Dubose Park, yelling at your hand toward the end of restoring your subjective agency. Encounters admit duration. Duration tugs on the wrong kind of encounter. Nobody knows whether or not they've spoken, certainly not to whom. Admitted fantasy with time elapsed. It's all there in the chart, the serial tug. Spat on the candle, choreographed a dance to the fizzle. It's a very Jungian way to work, doesn't impress me much. So as not to be godless, the nurse practitioner resolved to take everybody at their word, to tug on urgency before it rots. I'd rather be a shield than a drain. I'd rather be reciprocal than a poet. There are multiple appearances, but only one attestation. Singularity is the dehiscence, pushes through. Cock it up, she said. Gunk in the juncture, and in the disjuncture there is also gunk there. Cock it up, she said it was deceitful, and that's why nothing ever happens here. All I can offer you, move back into the side in one motion, diatically move away from the gunk. Y'all like the gunk? 7 symbols for one reference, 7 reference for one symbol. So where does the money go? Disambiguate each intolerable state from the intolerable as such, like so. Tolerate each state for the appropriate duration. Lineation isn't daily, nor parataxis. Edges are daily, intending to them a silly frame, but a frame nonetheless. Conjuncture absolute, dude. Speaking nearby grain metaphor. Squirm or disaffect. Chrysanthemums are what I'm talking about. No thing else to do. It collapses in on itself. Assonance, the total unfolding, but I only wanted it part way. The scaffold offers endurance. The scaffold offers endurance. And then I think lastly, I'll just quickly, there was like a moment where I was doing these like creative translation things, I guess, where the premise was sort of that I'd take a poem in Persian and then translate it in a sort of way that wasn't super faithful. And then, so there'd be the Persian text, a translation, and then a third text that was written from that. And I was doing this thing where I would write them on index cards and shuffle them and then read them. And so the idea is that there's like some kind of composition happening sort of spontaneously. So I'm gonna do one of those. It's like kind of an old one. It's uses lines from a poem of Sohrab Sepehri, the Iranian modernist. There's this poem of his Margarang, the death of color. So I'll do that and then I'll be done. Imagine color without horizontality, without neglect. Imagine color. Loss is not breaking. Non-contiguous loss makes poem. Deference is the lost night ritual. Lost night grants authority. Lost night grants deference. Don't dilute the deference. Sage morning, purple morning. تنها صدای مرغک بیباک گوش سکوت ساده می‌آراید با گوشوار پژواک. بندی گسسته است، خوابی شکسته است. بی حرف باید از خم این ره عبور کرد. رنگی کنار شب بی مرز مرده است. Color near night without speech is dead. Purple gray, then blue gray, lost night, then shore, friend, then snowy plover. In this loss of color, each song's integrity unravels. A clause is discontinuous, a dream is broken. Without speech, the bend of this path must be crossed. A color near night without border is dead. رنگی کنار شب بی حرف مرده است. The courageous bird's singular sound modestly adorns the ear of silence with the earring of echo. در این شکسته رنگ از هم گسسته رشته هر آهنگ. I'll end there. Thank you.
Thank you, Bahaar. That was a wonderful reading. Let's give Bahaar one more round of applause, please. And if you folks on Zoom would please donate to the readers, we're going to give it all to them. So please do that. And now we'll take a 5-minute break and then be back with Uche Nduka.
Every ill man is an enemy because he's the reflection of your own illness. Every dead man is an enemy because he's the image of your own death. Did you see the latest news on the TV? Did you see the town torn apart? Human beings are less than beasts. Violence is everywhere. Cruelty is your mother, and your victims could be your own children. Every ill man is an enemy because he's the reflection of your own illness. Every dead man is an enemy because he's the image of your own death. Did you see your latest newspaper? Photos of corpses on the first page. Human beings are less than insects. Stupidity is everywhere. Stupidity is your mother, and your victims could be your own an enemy because he's the reflection of your own illness. Every dead man is an enemy because he's the image of your own death. Did you hear the latest news on the radio? The story of men who murdered children. Human beings are less than nothing. Illness and madness are everywhere. Illness is your mother, and your victims could be your own parents.
Give me pleasure today. I know you need it at night. You can call it for the morning. You're not a liar. Maybe victim. I love to land it. Yours too gray. Give me pleasure tonight. Music goes too fast. Fail to catch my heart. I need your shoulder. You need my feelings. Give me pleasure tonight. I know you'll need it tonight. I'll play the game tonight. Even in the quietest moment, I'm grizzling in silence. I'm grizzling in silence. Because of all of this, because of all of the situation. I'm not the only one. The crook of your heart. Give me pleasure tonight. The crook of your heart. I'm not the only one. The crook of your heart. 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 The crook of your heart.
Hi, welcome back to the Segue reading series. I'm James Sherry, and today I am pleased to introduce Uche Nduka, who is going to be reading from his second roof title, Bainbridge Island Notebook, and possibly some new material. Good. Uche Nduka is a love poet. John Yao calls him erotic. So when Nduka writes, quote, "They meld and tingle, the hemlock greets the elm, roots grow brighter," the entire forest pulses with desire. Or when he talks about a fugue between the sheets, language's counterpoint to the flesh loses identity as we merge into each other at the touch of his voice. Nduka's fugue is not just an individual yearning, but, quote, "I don't give a damn about the conquest of nature. Conquer yourself first. Ain't you nature?" Humanity and nature as a single entity, finally. A poet who realizes that the individual is not the primary focus. Nduka is a writer who emerges from his loves, and lovers emerge from his Bainbridge Islands timber and timbre. Quote, "As much of this as I can stand, confusion between static and eros, as often as I could boat ideal form and dizziness outright." Here, his language blurs the distinction between politics and love, the ambiguity of static, and the way the seasick poet pushes his verse, quote, "closer to the edge, the fertility of outsiderdom." But Nduka's world is also an inversion of the world. Quote, "All of me is in your eyes, as well as the geometry of love in horizontal silence. Think of all the making and unmaking in a twist." Nduka's thorough exploration of bodies, society, and environment in Bainbridge Island Notebook undermines some of the modernist poetry tropes. Quote, "I hope you'll forgive me if I let you know that I don't like ironic distance." He'd rather get close, and what he calls a close reading of a portion of the rain. So what do we readers and audience get from this questioning of modernism? A modernist reprise of the poetry of rumpling sheets of paper and linen. A critique of modern life, while we, the poet and the reader, are together living in it. Nduka addresses the political moment as a moment of love. Quote, "wanting to touch you at the critical moment of migration." This poet, itinerant journeyman of love and language, of the social and the soil on Bainbridge Island, has found his spot. This, quote, "city built upon a clit." Please heat your hands with welcoming applause to Uche Nduka.
Thank you, James, for that rousing introduction. And thank you and Chris for making this possible. And thank you for those of you who made it from upstate. Hela and Mary, I don't know how you battle the weather, right from those places to New York City. Thank you. And thank you for those of you who also braved the weather to come out today to give preeminence to the act of creation. Because I know that as we all here at this moment, someone somewhere is being bombed to hell. Some people are suffering. But I feel that the response to violence should always be creativity. We can't stop writing. We shouldn't stop painting, composing music, drawing. Parts of what I feel our enemies always wants to do is to force us to become what? To despair, to stop being creative, to become bitter, to such an extent that you no longer be able to do anything, to become cynical, to become directly inoperative. And I think that the response to that should be more poems, more songs, more paintings, and more art forms in any way that's possible. In other words, the imagination should be given free rein. So I'll read some pages from Bainbridge Island Notebook, which is my most recent book, thanks to James and Ruth Books for getting it out. This is the second book they're bringing out. The first was Schizo Work, and the thing seems to be tottering towards a trilogy now, really. So I start with page 57 of the book, and then zigzag. When the goddess wants to ride, she uses me. He ensemble gives me the shields. Her ensemble gives me the shields, gives me the thirst for milk and dew. In each line that drags me along, I build her a shrine. Like when the poem becomes a golden harmonica, an impressionist painting. Living, do it for a lark, not in deadly earnestness. I shiver on her door. I drown in her map. Page 60. The alley of wisdom is the alley of wandering pines. Your hypochondria is their hypochondria. Moonstone, word struck. In this harried epidermis, the dead can still help us. Chronicle life's frenetic swerves. Use the next door to enter madness. Her Western Review on Winslow Way. Longbird, amber, Pacific rain. The dude abides. That's going to make for a good movie shot. Topsoil, taste of stone, cry of plant. It happened at the Combahee River. She positioned freedom right there. Don't talk about rearranging things. It's brutal, it's blurry. I relent the code of the wind when it circles me and the island. Neither remembers partition or ease. I used to worry about this kind of thing. It may seem grandiose, but I am not stuck in a rut. Don't talk about stopping the beautiful internal discourse of sexual intercourse. Spanish moss, cuddle, lipstick, eyeliner. My entire life has been leading towards this. All evening between land and water, my wife strolls through the island wearing her bohemian beret. She officiates over intensities of music and serenity. Her hands merge with the free bread of pulp of fruit. Her harmonics perennial, inerrant vowels. The legibility of mortality is always multiple. And I think of loam and mourning and depression. This weather is not different from the news. This embrace is not different from memory. Bitterness is a hell of a drug. Nitrous city aquiver with full disclosure. Solar cascade, that part where those yet to be born drag their secret faces out of secret drawers. Page 75. Do I objectify myself? Yes, I objectify myself. I am on top of things. Bigfoot, cookbook, and colloquial co. Southward, a revivifying look at the island. Stalemate cross-mat with contagious sanctity. Dean of breakage, oldest member of the family. No, not a skyline, semblance of beating light. Who needs to hear another bloody poet nattering about another tree? The skies that have strolled with me know my language. I draw the poem, I don't puzzle through it. Page 79. Smoke joints, play revolutionary songs at my funeral. I may need to shower alongside the Secretary of Desire and the Minister of Anxiety, teetering between a miniature portrait and the difference of opinion once we're out of earshot. Come on, Raffia. Come on, cowries. That footage is creepy. Has anyone in Lagos seen my car keys? Page 112. Get rid of space. Get rid of the guidebook. Don't look this up on the internet. The revolution is always beginning. Pessimism is cheap. Assault, murder, hatred, injustice, intimidation have not become old news. Each time you come around, each time you come ambling down, each time you come tumbling down, an exit from the eye leads to the entrance into the eye. My anger is not for sale. God stood to the side, smiling. He was fittingly rumpled. The mantra radiated color. The light wore a brown robe. Wake me when my silence gets uncomfortable. I am not deaf to the music of your eyes. Where were we supposed to make love, if not between the church pews? A penumbra decoded our secret oath, danger on the sidewalk. If to love is to travel, let this be a journey. The book chose to land on my head in a pandemic. I've remembered a lot and forgotten a lot. Boats and ambulances pass by as I lick salt off your breasts. Dipped a feeder into Puget Sound, downwards for a feasting boy, kernel oil, camwood, poetry sprouts on a trail. The stemmed grapes find concrete, sweet beginning at a bitter end. It didn't always be us against the world. That's just the way it is with my sensorial understanding of this place. Democracy is a disguise in itself. In the edifice of routine or those structures of taste in a glass of seawater. But somehow I got through the pauses in crisis, close to grass blue, roaming free, gardens without a gardener. How the war changed the way the Igbo understood themselves, going faster with hot steppers, horrors you can prepare for, fragments adorned in scars. Leave that bit like that, as bitter as it is. No one can totally avoid what's unreasonable. Something going on right in front of you that you shouldn't miss. So, think about going big, even when you are wearing elbow patches. Not that you give offense to canna lilies when you are talking nonsense. Leave that bit like that about the scarecrow and the fallen field marshals. Those stories that ferried us across the diaspora, For the oar, the anchor, the toast is always open. Inside, looking out to the lush feelings of this landscape, I carry my cities around with me. The weather, the season, last night's attack on us. I didn't fling words around with abandon. Neither did you. Such as it is, civilization. Such as it is, wilderness. A leveling out, a benediction. But I am not known for keeping an even keel. Don't get hooked on the blinding speed with which ons multiply. Did Gogo explain the explainer while painting island life? One round of charades, Tupperware, scaffold shed, nightstand notepad, dancing in the wings, a flight to board, those I've wronged, available ticket for a concert, licking her lips, a busy day ahead of Monochromatica, redemption reckoning, Cheetos and beer, to make amends, rehearsal franchise, I'm already devastated. Meals on wheels, contact details, bodega carnations. I can do it alone. Pot of caviar and red gingham, a big budget room calm, rocking back and forth in thought, evergreen branches, laws of dark makeup under my eyes, his mortal coil, vamping in the intro. I am the spirit of the season, veer their voicemail, polish up the leftovers, one gifting spot, a melting champagne bottle. I am not free of judgment, a set of prawn placemats, merci beaucoup. One of my don'ts became a do. Canvas, tablescape, splodge on sour cream, centerpieces of high and low, sheet metal, fostering new friendships. I simply insist on not making it fancy. Edelweiss is their team. $128. What goes on inside a garage band? Got a pandemic puppy, Basil. Time and space, you are sublime. I still feel bad making you be on the pointer all the time. 3 sides of equal length, best place to take a leak. I'm just from the riots and my voice is hoarse. What's the history behind the dead body of the little boy washed up the shore of a Greek island? I have rocks to climb. The leverage of the footprints of cadavers. It's hard to say with certainty who deserves utter desperation. This is the art of planting a cubicle inside a bud. Immension isn't quite an alignment. The stars of remembrance are dark. Molasses that run through your thoughts. Which panic has collapsed into the rain? Both sky and bird in locomotion to smash servile writing. Wreck it. I want to hear about your day trip with Caetano Veloso. On sitting for a portrait by you. The variants are sneaky bastards. I am too horny not to see the world made flesh. Hakuna Matata. Spare me your flag emojis. What's all this jazz about you being immaculate? A body can say things that words cannot. The complete honesty of a truth searcher. I can't really hide anywhere. I stand out from the crowd. This is what happens whenever I wear my gold gown. Intangible things are fun to speak about. This book is a journey in itself, going to the island and discovering wherever it is called Bembridge. I never really heard of Bembridge. But then the island brought all sort of things. And as the title says, yes, I was taking up all sort of notes and writing stuff down when we were thinking the world was coming to an end. So this is almost like something one came up with from running practically, looking for a mind spread out on the rug, maybe. I don't see you anymore. Where have you been? I'm saving all my money. I've spent too much here. I want them to know that I didn't take it lightly. I didn't want to be with someone who didn't want to be with me. The wish to dilute the horrors of the genocide in Biafra. In good faith, I will turn you on to those who turned me on. If you kept a record of ecstasies or combat drones, gun sight footage, the rainmakers that read the old notebooks thought they were over the top. They thought they knew what they were getting themselves into. There ought to be tougher liquid. Feel to them. A different profile emerges when you turn the bottles around. Exciting things to happen. They move boundaries for us. The more you think about them, the more useful they become. A different type of sweetness. The same thing happens when the presence of chlorophyll is quite deliberate. Carpool karaoke, ungardened, unwalled, unvipered, just above the eyebrows of starlings. Love letters. Every love doesn't have to be an accusation. Side by side, set free from whispers. A back-loading duck. His cell phone number. Fishbowl of local news. Lobby, canvas, connoisseur. Surgical masks, ballot drop boxes. Power outages, luggage conveyor. Old band steamboat, pierced navel. Quicksilver tight swing card, bargain. Sandstorm tower, earwig trinket. Elevator, door, brick, keen, weather map. Her cell phone number. A brush, clavicle, harmonica backflip. Rain-rich towel. Their flirtations turn into war. '53. Sometimes I shut my mouth, said language. Caresses in dialogue bloom all day. Notice how we're saved from Pacific ruin. Impersonality is an empty socket. We don't see and cannot know what is between interval and completion. I end on that book, and I step into the next book with a few lines. Now we seed, and dawn is coming. It's after adding a black banjo that you sell freely. A witness is ailing. Exile ripens inside a star. Whole or halved, I didn't attempt to outscream you. I yanked the wallpaper off the wall. Somewhere along the line, I knew there would be cup and wine in it. A paycheck pumping light. Boom for real. From crosstown grace to periscopes. Through the roots of noon and delight that had become illicit. It is something interesting exactly because it doesn't have classic outlines. the bayou grape crush rush, skin made of rain, slanging the streets. Help me to make a goal of generosity, a navigating dawn in 6 cards, full or half ghost. Daybreak man, my examined life is a rumor. I dress my naked lunch before I eat it, in full or half light. In the name of rapture, a poem got blood-stained. Whiskey mixed with hate. No, thanks. A streetcar moved beneath the play into a swoon of silhouettes, blue tiles. You don't need to connect the dots of my life. Either of us may talk about it in terms of its secret. The storm is licking its wounds. They are building another White House with my bones, just east of home. Quit muttering through your shirt front. The seeable wreck is gregarious. I pack this rain on a cat's tongue. Or about matters erotic and mystical. This is the canal. Synapse on 6th Avenue. Come back to your senses. That was when marvels were forbidden and poets were on the run. Go further than winning and losing. Blab about eyebrows. Gombrowicz told them that Christ's child was a refugee. The Christ child was a refugee. It will kill me if your perversity is not original. A moment comes when intertextuality stops meaning anything. Shame on us all. Another imperfect scoop, a truck inside a phone call. Here come the broken branches. Telegraphy of infinite cocks, infinite cunts. Private vows, December sunlight, an interface of romance. Birds batter my impersonation of purity. A high wire act drained of allegory. An exoskeleton of benediction. We bus across town to play tennis with the mayor. I stop here. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much, Uche. Bainbridge Island Notebook is for sale for $10 right over there. So rush over there and get your copy. I can't believe so many people turned out for poetry in sub-freezing weather. So thanks for being here. Thanks for Artist Space, as always, for hosting us. I want to let you know that next week is the season finale of the Roof Book season. And we are going to be hosting all the way from sunny Los Angeles, Brian Kim Steffens, and she's in the room right now, Leanne Brown. So we're looking forward to that. And why don't we hear it once more for these amazing performers, Bahaar Ehsan and Uche Nduka.